Custom views can really change how you play Football Manager, from overhauling your squad screen to looking at shortlists in a whole new way. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to install my views that I use, how you can create your own, and also give you some tips for managing them, because the file management can get a little bit out of hand. Let's do this. Yes folks, how is it going? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing amazing. Today we're covering squad views as another one of my Football Manager install guides. We've already done face packs, logo packs, and the skin that I'm using in this video. Links to those videos down in the description. Today we're going to talk about squad views, be it my training view, my squad profile view, or just the ultimate view, which is the view I use by default most of the time. My views tend to be kind of popular. So first things first, these are linked down in the description. If you want to pick them up, feel free to. I will include individual download links as well as a WinRAR link that has all of them bundled together. Now, before I get into how to install my views, I'd like to show you how views exist and work within Football Manager. Now, if you've never played Football Manager before, your squad view probably looks something like this by default. You'll have the selection info selected and you have all these different presets. However, you can customize these to your heart's content. So for me personally, I think on the squad view screen, rather than me constantly having to go to the report screen to see ability and potential, I'd like to have it on the selection info screen. To do this, all you need to do is right-click import, and then you're going to navigate to whatever it is you want. In this case, I want scouting ability, and I also want scouting and potential. Of course, because I've played a lot of Football Manager, I know where these exist. When you're first creating a view for the first time, it can be a little bit of a labyrinth. Now, within this view screen, you can, of course, customize the width of these things. You can also drag and move around the order in which the columns are displayed. If for some reason, I don't know, you wanted to have the names on the far right, you could have the names on the far right. You'd never do that, though. Another piece of information I might want to have on this screen is player age. To do that, I will just go to General and Age. From here, I could drag this. If I want to just be able to see all the player ages next to their names, quite nice to have an overview as to how old your squad is. You can do that here. If you're not 100% sure on what stuff you'd like to add, you can also do a different option, and that is customize current view. This is going to bring up this screen here, which can look a little bit scary, but essentially you can scroll through every single option there is in terms of columns and move them over to the right hand side if you'd like to have them. So for example, maybe I want to have a player's general happiness on my view screen. I can simply hit add. It's then going to move it across to the right here and put it at the bottom. And the order in which these are listed is the order of left to right of how they're displayed in game. So maybe I want to have general happiness after playing time happiness. I can move it up so it sits directly below, hit OK, and then within here it's now updated. Of course, general happiness is a very, very wide column, maybe not one you'd actually want to have on a view screen. Now, I will warn you, these columns, notoriously buggy. They can be an absolute nightmare to get exactly how you want, to get them to a size that you want. They can be a bit of a wrestling task. One thing you can do to make it a little bit easier is hit right-click, auto-size all columns. What this basically does is it scales them all to the right size. You also have an option to auto-size this column. For example, the condition column, right, it's a little heart. It doesn't need to be as wide as it is. By dragging this inwards, you can see how we start to get the heart cut off a little bit. It starts to be a little bit buggy. Suddenly all the columns are changing in sizes. I will warn you now, it's like wrestling a python, getting this how you want it. It's not as easy as it should be. It's a little bit awkward, bit of a task. Not that I've ever wrestled a snake, but it's how I imagine it is. Now, of course, this method of changing views can be done on a load of different screens. For example, over on the fixture screen, you can add and remove columns. You can also do the exact same on the player search screen, for example. If you're not that happy with the overview screen, you could choose to add and remove columns to your heart's content. It works the exact same way. Just by right-clicking in the header, you're given this whole host of options. So now that I've shown you a little bit of how to create your own views, I'm going to show you mine, how you can install them yourself, and maybe if you're not happy with certain bits, you now have the tools at your disposal to customize them how you'd like them. So once you've downloaded the views that are linked down in the description, you're either going to have the zip file or the WinRAR archive file or the individual files, which are .ffmpeg, that is Football Manager's file format. These files want to exist in the Football Manager views folder. By default on Windows, it'll be C, users, your username, documents. We've been here before, haven't we? If you've watched any of the other guides, you might have got the gist. Within your Football Manager 2023 folder, if there isn't a views folder, you just need to make it yourself. And within here, you can either put the individual individually downloaded FMFs, or if you've got the zip file, you just need to right click, hit extract here. If you've not got WinRAR or another unzipping program installed, check out the guide for WinRAR. It's in the description as well. Now, to install views, you're going to want to come into Football Manager and the screen that the view is relevant to. In this case, we're on the squad screen, and all you're going to do is click on this drop down, hit custom, and then import view. By clicking on this, it's going to open up a little pop-up where you can navigate to the files that you want to load into game R. And this is going to go by default to your views folder if it exists, and if the files were put here, you can install them just directly by clicking on it and clicking load. If you're a menace to society and you decide not to put these in your views folder, all you need to do is come to the top right here and then select the location where you've downloaded the files to. If it's your downloads folder, they will just show up as such, and you can import them the exact same way. In previous years, I have included these files on the Steam Workshop, but that is always a little bit buggy, and with Game Pass and the Epic Store becoming more and more popular, rather than just limit these files to Steam users, I want to make sure everyone can use them, depending on what platform you're on. Doesn't matter, you just install it the way I've just shown here. One thing I do want to show is the process of curating files, because I do feel like this is a little bit important. If you're like me, under the custom tab, you might end up with a load of just crazy files. During the process of moving all my FM22 files to FM23, I've got a mess here. And very quickly, if you've ever started customizing your own views, you've probably had your own mess here. The thing that I recommend doing if you want to clear this all up is firstly select general info or another one of the default views in Football Manager, and then come to the custom tab, hit manage views, and then in the top right where it says filters, go to show items that can be changed. This will only show the views that you use and have created. And then from here, you can just remove the files individually that you don't want. So if I don't want the national team view, I can remove that. All the FM22 views which are clogging up this, I don't want anymore. I have updated versions of them. Be gone. And through here, you can delete these, and then if we just hit OK, if we now go to the custom tab, you can see we now only have the FM23 views. Now, if you want to keep your files nice and organized, one thing to remember is the order in which the views are displayed in this custom section is in the order that you import them. So because the ultimate view is the view that I use the most, I'm going to have this one at the top. From here, however, I can then pick the views in order of what I use. So for me personally, I love to use my training view. So that's the one I'm going to import next. And then from here, we can then go on to import. I think Squad Profile View is another one that I like the look of a lot. Squad Profile View is really nice for just getting a nice overview of, especially when you go into a new team, who's important, who's not important, who is currently happy and unhappy, who has the good determination that I need in my team. And it's kind of a nice way just to get a big holistic view as to the state of the squad in a non-footballing sense. One of my favourite views in this pack that is probably going to get its own video when I do a video talking about analytics in Football Manager is the match stats view. This has all the new analytics in FM23, the per 90-minute stats for everything, curated and laid out in a way that hopefully makes it digestible and easy to process. I will probably, as I said, do a video all on its own about this view and using analytics in Football Manager when implementing tactical systems, but for the sake of this video, I want you to know it is in the pack. The important thing to remember with how these views are displayed is they're kind of grouped up in a few different ways. Firstly, you have a view that you set for your own senior first team. When I go on Chelsea here, by default, they just have their selection view. If I want to have it so that all opposition teams use my ultimate squad view, I can do this here. You then also have a view for your youth team. Now, normally for me, I will also have this on the ultimate squad view, but things sometimes change a little bit, especially if you're doing a national team scouting trip, right? This international view that's in by default, it's not that great. And equally, having the ultimate squad view, it's not the most useful when I'm looking through national teams. So what I like to use is use the national team view. This basically shows the national team players, the club they play for, the league that they're in, secondary nationalities, and especially if you're looking through a load of different players across the world, flicking through national teams, it's a good way to be able to quickly evaluate teams as part of your scouting. Worth noting that once you apply it to one international team, it will then apply to all the other international teams. So the way this works is the views are kind of grouped up. So you have your own squad's views, you then have opposition views, be that for their senior or youth teams, and then you have the national team views. By default, the fixture screen, it's a bit there. So if you want to do this, all you need to do is come to the import view, do the exact same steps. Within here, we have the WorkTheSpace fixtures view. You're going to want to import this. I've already got it imported. I don't need it twice. But if we come here, you can now see that we have the home formation, the opposition formation, attendance, and also all the goal scorers listed on the right. One important thing to remember is these views are designed with my screen resolution and size in mind. If you're playing on a smaller laptop or a bigger screen, you might have more or less space. Of course, you can customize all these views as I showed earlier on in the video. By default, on the tactics screen, the selection info is fine, but I like a little bit more information. So the view that I like to use here is my tactics screen view. So we're going to import this in here, and whilst it doesn't radically change the page too much, it does just allow you to see a little bit more information in terms of players' ratings, recent form, goals, and assists. Of course, not a whole lot of space to work with here, but still just nice to have that little bit more information. One of the screens I'm not a massive fan of is the player search screen, or at least the view that you get given for it. Like all the others, you've got the FM23 player search view that exists. This has, of course, all this extra information you can see here. And the final screen that has its own view is the shortlist view. This is how it looks by default by importing it the exact same way as I've shown before. You can have the player shortlist view, and it will look a little something like this. Worth noting, if you get any kind of issues, for example, if on the shortlist screen here, I try and import, I don't know, a squad view, I will get an error message. If you see this message, it means that you're trying to import a view for a different screen to a screen it's not valid for. Anyway, I hope this little overview of squad views was useful for you. Hopefully you can apply it to your own Football Manager save game. Hopefully you get a lot of value out of the views that I've provided down below, or alternatively, maybe you've been able to create your own off the back of this video. Nevertheless, thank you for watching. For more Football Manager 2023 guides, make sure to be subscribed. If this one has helped you out, leave a like, and until next time, it's me, Jack, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.